Good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. It's great to stay up late. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Caffeine Crash with Chris and Sim. And of course, I'm Chris. And
I'm Sim.
we have Sim. And today we have a very special guest, Mr. Art Thibert.
What's up, everyone? How you doing?
Doing awesome. Pleasure having you on. And I love that Batman mask in the back.
Oh, cool. Cool. Hey, I just want to let you know that I don't dance and I don't sing. So that intro, I'm not doing anything like that.
We just thought it was a great thing to start a morning show with.
Yeah, I did like it. It was perky.
Yeah, and I need perky.
Well, you said you just made a caffeine run, right?
Yeah, yeah. I work night shift, so I'm winding down when we're starting up with the morning show.
So he starts his morning coffee with one of those breakfast or chocolate bar type of name coffee, and he's like, I don't know why I'm falling asleep. I'm like, we're a few of us going, go get yourself a real coffee.
Yeah, so,
that's an eye opener. If you don't drink the coffee and you don't feel your eyes going pop-eyed, like when he's eating one of those spinach, you're not doing it right.
Get like some double and triple espresso.
So now I have a black eye. They said it was a shot of espresso on top of like a drip coffee, black coffee or something. It tastes terrible. So hopefully that means it'll perk me right up.
Well, there you go. Look at the face. Well,
Yeah,
I'm glad you fought back sleep to hang out here and do this show. So I appreciate it.
Oh, I am very glad that you decided to grace us with your presence.
Oh, no problem. No problem.
He was a nervous wreck ball this morning.
I'm always a nervous wreck ball.
So yeah, black and white, second edition right now. I missed the first one, and I'm happy as all hell to get the chance of buying it because everybody's telling me that it's amazing, the rework you've done on it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a labor of love. It came out in 1994 originally through Image Comics, and so I originally was going to reissue it as a remastering. So I was going to clean up some of the ink lines and maybe rewrite some of the dialogue just to bring it up to like a 21st century standards. But the creative process being what it is, I ended up overdoing it. So most of it is redrawn and the whole book is completely rewritten. So this is a pretty much a brand new book. So it goes well beyond remastering. I know that was the original campaign branding, but it really is a brand new book.
And here I'm showing off like a sample of the old covers, what it used to look like.
Yeah, the original two there, yeah.
To the new one, yeah.
And the amazing Kyle Ritter helped me out. He threw some colors over that cover.
The other one?
Yeah, the other one.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful cover, and I really like the other variant that you did there, where they're fighting the robots. I picked that one because it was the original cover intended, and I wanted it. Might grab a second copy.
Thank you. Yeah, we just about sold out of the Greg Capullo variants. I cannot believe it. My wife is my partner, and we write, and then she runs the studio here. And so we originally built this campaign that you're seeing here for the whole month because we thought, this would sustain us for the whole month. We sold out of a bunch of tiers already. And so now, like today, we're going to have to put our thinking cap on and pretty much reinvent this campaign for the rest of the month because you guys cleaned us out.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, see that. Like
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 tiers sold out. Wow.
Wow.
how dude, it's amazing to see you do so well in the second run campaign of the same book. Like it's been so fun to see it go like up so fast. What, 4 days I think in all?
Yeah, in 4 days we went beyond what I thought we would do for the full month, because you really don't know what these things are going to do, and especially like a second chance, because I've never done anything like this before, where you reissue or reoffer the book that you previously crowdfunded. So you don't know what the market is. You just think like you have X amount of fans, and you don't realize in the years since that it's built, like you've built a fan base, and you built a new group of people that now want the book. And that's the main reason we reissued it, because people, after we closed the original campaign, were asking, how do we get the book? But I didn't think there'd be this many people,
Well, I think a good example is like Phil with his Magic Cup and other people that, like, as soon as they let their, Vinny also, when they left their book in demand after fulfilling, people starting seeing the book coming out, having reviews of it, and then they saw their sales double.
Yeah, it got a huge boost.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's the same factor. Everybody's been going like, oh, the new Black and White. It's not just a little quickie fixie, or like you're saying, you went all out, and it's freaking beautiful. Like Mike Murphy was saying, like he loved it. It's one of his most beautiful book on the shelf, and I'm like, I can't wait to have it.
Thank you. Yeah, and so we decided that to set this campaign, I mean, we wanted to mirror the original campaign pretty much with all the tiers and everything, and all the same things offered. The only things we couldn't do with this one is we couldn't offer the what are they called? Like the ash cans, because we had like a 16-page ash can, and then we had the original 1994 preview ash can. But we completely sold out of those with the first campaign, so we didn't we didn't offer them here. But what we thought we would do to kind of set it aside from the original campaign is do this original piece of artwork that you see here, the Total Bot Annihilation.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd offer that as a poster, and then we would offer it as, well, not offer it, but you'll get free with every tier backing, you get the trading card. So that artwork will be the trading card. Yeah, there it is.
It's also the trading card.
Yeah. So every backing, even the posters, you'll get the trading card. And then we offered it as a sticker as well. So if you buy if you keep going down, the stretch goal goodies, there they are. They're the original stretch goal goodies from the first campaign. But we offered, like, instead of the old sticker, which was kind of small, if you look in that right-hand corner, that's the Total Annihilation artwork there. So that's going to be an oversized sticker. So that's kind of the new twist to the original campaign goodies. So you can add those campaign goodies on your order at checkout, and also they're offered in the what is that tier called? I always forget it. The Killer Bot tier.
That one.
Yeah. So you can get all the stretch goal goodies there.
Awesome. Yeah, I thought it was a second cover, but it's a poster.
Yeah. It's a oversized poster. It's bigger than a 11 by 17. Let me see.
So more like a movie poster type.
Yeah, probably between like what you usually get at cons, which is 11 by 17, and like a movie poster. So it's 24 by 36. I'm not sure what size movie posters are.
Oh, that's pretty big. That's the size of the X-Men XSL.
Oh, cool.
It's huge. It's like a movie poster size.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
I got surprised when I got that book. I thought it, you read the dimension, you're like, oh, okay, it's gonna be a deluxe, or no, it's like it's the size of a living room table.
That's cool.
I had a question, Art.
Yeah.
There was, in your first campaign, I remember there was something to do with your female character had a different design. I think you said it was like your first design for her, or a previous design. I can't remember. I think it was like a.
Oh, you saw the version of her with a helmet on? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, there was like another version of her. I think, yeah. I liked it.
Hold on, I got this. If you cut to my camera, there's this version here.
How do I bring that up like that? Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, I remember thinking that it was kind of. I always liked that design of her. I thought it was really cool, and I remember I wanted to get in on that, but then I couldn't afford it at the time or something.
Yeah, that's it's the same uniform or the same suit, but it just has the helmet instead. And the reason I chose not to use the helmets on this, and I may eventually have them start using the helmets, is because I wanted to pay homage to the original 94. So she has the hair, the loose hair in that one. And so I wanted to keep her hair long and, flowing.
And I see that you also have your Vampirella cover available on it too. So people it's like a one-stop shop.
Yeah. So we have the Vampirella black and white. So she's celebrating 50 years and Black and White celebrating 25 years. So that's the commemorative cover for that. And I talked to Nick Barucci over at Dynamite, and he graciously said, yeah, I'll give you some books to sell. And so I'm not sure how many we have to sell, but at this point, we have books to put into the tier and get to you guys.
So it's a nice way of one-stop shop, like I'm saying.
Yeah, and the one that the featured tier that we had, we offered all 3 books, but that sold out. So we had all 3 books plus the poster print, and that sold out. And the reason some of these are limited is just because the gray Capullo variant, we only have 130 of them. So I'm not sure, but I think we offered 90 in this original launch, this 4 days. And so I think we only have. Can you go to the killer bot tier?
Killer bot tier.
Go the other way. Yeah, there it is. There's 7 out of 20. So there is 13 more. So the only place you can get the gray Capullo cover right now is in this tier. And so I was on Adam Post's show, and Vilnid had made a suggestion in the chat. And so when you guys speak, we do listen. And he said, maybe you should offer or re-offer the Capullo cover in a virgin. So go back to print and do it without the cover logo.
Yeah.
So we may do that just so we can keep the Grey Capullo book in the campaign. Otherwise, we really only have those 13 books. And then I believe we may have 20 more books here that we can offer. But it's very limited.
That sounds very interesting, Art.
Yeah, folks might want to get in on that. That could be collectible.
Yeah.
Well, I read an article. Somebody sent it to me, and it was they were talking about Grey Capullo covers, and they said perhaps the most rare Grey Capullo cover of all time is this cover, is the black and white cover.
That is true.
So I don't know much about collectability or any of that stuff, but based on what they were saying, it sounds like it's the most rare, and I do know that is one of the collectible mandates. So what is it? It's condition, demand, and rarity, right?
Yeah, and availability, yeah.
And that's a 94 cover, so it's also one of his old ones. So yeah.
Yeah, when he signed his name with the GC, and I signed my name with the AT.
That's when he was starting as Spawn, right? If I'm not mistaken, 94.
I think this is he was working on Spawn at this time. And then he had a book called Creech that he was working.
I love it.
Yeah.
I have both series. It's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
He mentioned a while back that he was considering maybe going back for a 3rd chapter and maybe crowdfunding it. I don't know what's happening with that.
Did you notice the original run? I got a special thanks in there in Creech.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I came up with the ending. Like we were just brainstorming, just hanging out on the phone one day, and he was telling me the ending, and I was like, "You can't do it that way." And I'm not gonna say what what I suggested, because it might be a spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't read the book yet. But I suggested it, and he's like, he fought me, and I was like, no. There has to be some glimmer of hope. And if you guys read the book, then you know what the glimmer of hope is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was my suggestion.
It was a great one, because to me, it's one of those very underrated series. Like, I'm surprised that there's so many people that never heard about Creech.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that it's never been reprinted.
Creech. I feel like I had issue 1 of Creech, because I'm pretty sure I know who the character is.
Yeah, he's this big, like, hulking character with like tendrils.
Yeah, I did. Okay, yeah, I did. Either I had him like as like before he had his own comic, like a preview of him in another comic, or else I had issue 1 because I remember him.
You probably had issue 1.
Yeah, they may have done a preview in like a Spawn book or something.
Because I remember thinking he was kind of cool looking and interesting.
Yeah, he's kind of the Hulk meets Swamp Thing, but he's like kind of more like an alien.
There you go.
Yeah, I had him. I had
big power gloves. Yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty cool.
And he had like big cannons coming out of them. But the entire overall thing that's really great about it, it's the story in it.
Yeah, Greg is a master storyteller.
So, if you never heard of the Creech, go check it out.
Definitely. Yeah.
And you do you hope that Art adds more of those covers, because I do want one.
Oh, yeah. We'll do it. And we also had a lot of people asking about posters. So they want a poster of the Greg Capullo artwork as well.
That would be an awesome idea, yeah.
That coffee is hurting Chris. Look at
that.
But he's also new to coffee.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. I'm not a coffee drinker. I started drinking coffee specifically for these streams to keep me.
It was the concept of it is like, me, it's my waking morning. Like, I wake around that time. And him, he's the night shift, so he's about to go to bed. So we always thought that it creates a good dynamic for the morning show.
I got a good suggestion for Chris, though. Just start popping no-dos.
No-dos?
Those little pills.
Caffeine pills.
Yeah, they're like little legal speed. Like, you can buy it. It's definitely like a form of speed,
Yeah.
And in the 60s and early 70s, they used to say speed kills. So, yeah. But you can get it over the counter.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are they called? Trucker pills?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if they still call them no-dos, but I'm sure there's various product out there that are like Sim said there. I'm not sure if they're just caffeine pills, but some of this stuff I think is actually legal speed. I think it's
like it's something that's some people were doing when I was back in security, when you're doing those long night shifts, and they're like, try those, and you had a red rooster on it. like caffeine pills, okay. And yes, it wakes you up pretty fast, but it also does a really, really bad job on your digestive system. It's really harsh.
And I've never really done those pills, but I do know like caffeine comes with a pretty harsh crash later once it's out of your system, where you just fall asleep. So it might be good for Chris. So he'll be riding high for this stream, and then as soon as the stream's over, he'll just crash.
Yeah, I hope it starts kicking in. Let's see. We got Soul is of course in the chat. Hail, Officer Soul.
Welcome, brother.
The Ace.
Hey, Ace.
Soul has already started. He says, judging from your face, you got real coffee this time. Oh, never fails.
The rose has started.
they never give me a break. Yoda Darkstar is here. We've got
like I said, it's the only road show. It's the only road show where the host gets roasted as much as everybody else, if not more.
The coffee roast.
Hello, Astra Meadow. What's he say? Chris, your camera looks like it's rewinding you right now. Thank you. That's all I know. I need to get a new one.
Yeah, he's ordering a new camera right now.
Yeah, I'm going to get one as soon as the stream ends. Going to make it happen.
Oh, those streaks across the screen. I thought you were doing that for effect.
No, that is not effect. It will not stop doing that.
You know, there are YouTubers that do that on purpose, right?
Mm-hmm. To look like they're in the Matrix.
Yeah, I'll save this one for when I need effects and get the new one for when I don't.
But question for you, Art. For those, obviously it's kind of weird, but there's still some people that may not know who you are. So what have you done other than, black and white?
What have you done for me lately? What haven't I done for you guys lately? I have slaved. I was talking to Graham Nolan, and he says the same thing. He says he's a 35-year comic book veteran, but we did the math the other day when he was on a live stream, and I think it's more like 37, 38 years that we've been doing comic books. So, and I have a few years that I did independent. So I've been doing this for close to probably 38 years. And so I started at Marvel and DC Comics on the same day, way back in, was it 82, 83? And so I started at Marvel as an inker and at DC as a penciler. So I was inking a lot of the Marvel books. They had a kid line called Star. It was called the Star line of comics. And they were like Heathcliff and a bunch of cartoon shows that they were adapting into comic book form. And so I did the Inhumanoids. So I inked over Jose Delbo on the Inhumanoids. Excuse me. And the cool thing about that is the toy company sent me every one of the toys, the prototypes that they did for that cartoon. And that was pretty cool. So, and then, oh yeah, there's 90 stuff. So I'm still in the 80s. And then I was working as a penciler at DC Comics on The Warlord. So I followed up Dan Jurgens, I think, on The Warlord. And then I did a few issues of that. And then the Kubert brothers actually followed me on The Warlord. And then I went over and did various like Teen Titan projects. And then I went over to Adventures of Superman. So I started doing finishes over Dan Jurgens. I did that for a couple years while I was penciling Time Masters for DC. And I think at that point, I wasn't really doing too much work for Marvel until like the early 90s. And then I started working at Marvel and DC simultaneously, like I did when I first started. So I was inking a lot of X-Men stuff. I was inking Art Adams on some of the annuals. I was inking Jim Lee back then. Walter Simonson on Fantastic Four. Will Pascio on X Factor. All the same time I was working, and there's Mark Bagley. I was working with Dan Jurgens on Adventures of Superman. And then they didn't tell me what they were doing because I was working at Marvel, but I was still working in the Superman office. But I wasn't doing interiors anymore. I was penciling and inking the action covers. I did that for about a year. And I was working in the office, but they weren't really letting me know what was going on. So there was this really cryptic messages and things that I would get from the editors. And they'd be like, here's what we want you to draw on the cover. But it was very, very specific. And the character that they were doing and showing me these things and asking me, to do very specific things was the character Doomsday. So I was drawing Doomsday on these covers, and I had no idea who Doomsday was. Because I don't think they trusted me. They didn't trust me because I was working over at Marvel, so they didn't want to let the cat out of the bag. And if you guys remember the way they revealed Doomsday, they kind of did it slowly, where he had that kind of Shaw on.
Yeah, it was all covered and everything.
Yeah, a little piece everywhere in every comic. There was a little 1-page or 2-page scene, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, so every time I would draw him on a cover, there would be more reveal. There'd be more torn away. And then I finally got to do the action cover. I think it was 500 Miles to Metropolis. And I did that cover. So it's Superman and Doomsday kind of coming at each other in a profile. It's a pretty famous cover. So I was really, really, it's one of those things like I didn't know how, historic that was going to be. And then it just turned out that, Doomsday was going to kill Superman. And I had no idea that was what was going to happen there.
And you did the Super Sons for a while, right?
Yeah, I did Super Sons last year. So that was the last book I did for DC just before I left DC to work exclusively on these indie books and be part of Comicsgate.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, there's my kid. Go back. The girl right there is right on the top in the green and red. That's my daughter.
Well,
Oh.
hello.
Oh, she's a pretty lady.
Yeah, thank you. She does modeling. I think she calls it. What is it? It's like
Cosplaying?
it's cosplay, but it's more like it's called alternative. So she does alternative modeling.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of more like those tight rubber suits and more like it's kind of like cosplay, but not specific. She does that as well, but it's just kind of like it is kind of cosplay, but it's not a character. It's just kind of a made up thing.
Yeah. So for all you out there, now you know why I'm so nervous about this interview, because we're practically talking to a legend here.
Well, the 90s were very good, and then about was it 92, 93, probably more like 90, well, maybe late 92, because I hung out with all those guys. So I hung out with Jim Lee, Will Spertasio, Rob Liefeld, Jim Valentino, Mark Silvestri. I knew Todd McFarlane, he knew me, and I also knew Eric Larson, but they didn't live in California. So all the West Coast guys I pretty much knew really well, and we hung out together. And so when the Image thing happened, it was just a natural fit. So, the 7 core guys got all the limelight, but there were a lot of supporting guys that came over from Marvel with them. And so I was one of them. So I look at myself as one of the founders as well. So, I came over and started working at Image Comics, and then I got an offer I couldn't refuse to work out of Extreme, which is Rob Liefeld's studio. So I worked there for a long time, and then I got an opportunity to do black and white through Image. Oh, look at that! That's a Jim Lee cover page right there. Yeah, Sabretooth.
That's the one you inked, right?
Oh yeah. They made that Image into all like T-shirts and all kinds of stuff.
But Maverick was one of those very cool characters that didn't last too long.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't like we didn't try, right? He was in a lot of those issues. I think he had a miniseries too, didn't he?
Yes,
yeah.
By McNiven, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken.
Sean Chen, maybe. Yeah, but yeah, those were the crazy salary days. Those were the days when comic books were selling millions of copies and stuff. And so years later, the boom, the big, Image and the big speculator boom crashed. So then I went back to Marvel Comics, and then I started a little line of books called the Ultimate line with Michael Bendis and Mark Millar, and it was Adam Kubert and Mark Bagley. And then I eventually started working with Dave Finch on Ultimate X-Men when he took over for Adam Kubert.
The Ultimate run was great. I don't know why they canceled it.
I think they played that out to as far as they could. I think because what they set out to do is try to do a line of books that didn't have a lot of back continuity, and so like you like if you were just buying comics, you could go in there and you could follow along with Spider-Man and X-Men, without all the years and years of baggage. But what eventually happens is you end up creating your own baggage again, right? Inevitably. You get into the same situation. That's why I don't think those are solutions. Like rebooting oh, there's a Super Sons page. Like rebooting the stuff, I don't think it's necessarily the best idea, because I think that mindset is false, to be honest. I mean, just to pontificate for a minute, I think renumbering and then the conceit of, oh, well, if there's so many years of history, the readers don't know where to start. They're inundated with too much information and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, man, just start writing the stories as more one and dones. You can still have your ongoing plot lines, but do them as one and dones. And to me, as a kid growing up, if I knew that this book went into another book or was related to another storyline, I wanted to get that storyline. Like, it was great marketing. Like, it didn't work the opposite. It didn't make me go, you know what? I don't want to buy comic books anymore, or I'm overstimulated or over, like, I don't want to get into the history of these stuff. I don't want to go into all the backstories and things. It actually made me want to do that. It made me want to go into the backstories, into the, comic book, old, the back bins, and look for these comic books and then read them to get up to speed. So I dug all that stuff. I don't know where they were starting to like, oh, well, people are overloaded with this information and it's just too much. And they have to buy all these backstories and, all these back issues. And I'm like, I dug that shit when I was a kid,
Yeah, like you used to read those books and you get to a point where something was linked, like they were making a reference to something that happened before, but they still gave you enough information so you would get the story without having to go read what was, quoted on, the reference, but you wanted it. The number was on there, like as seen in, X-Men number 285, and you're like, oh, well, I want it.
Yeah. And as a kid, didn't that number just burn into your brain? Like, for some reason, you knew that number of that book you didn't have. Like, I didn't know the numbers of the books I had, but I sure as hell knew the numbers of the books that I needed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, which one do you have? I don't know, but I know I need that one. That one.
I need 287 of the Amazing Spider-Man or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I never had a comic shop, and I didn't know anyone who even liked comics. So I always got my stuff through flea markets and yard sales. So I just found random issues of random books. So I never did get my stuff in order, but like the beauty of those older books was I didn't need to get them in order. I could just pick up a random book, open it up, and I'd be able to know what's going on, know whose powers did what. And if something was outside the book, you'd have those little notes at the bottom that would tell you, oh, this is kind of gives you a brief idea of what happened. So I never was like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Everything was contained. It was everybody.
I think the real problem is that their new writers are too lazy to actually try and look into the canon of what happened before, because they're obviously a lot of the new writers are not comic book fans.
And then they just it was a trend in the 90s where they would kind of have one subject matter, and instead of multiple subplots happening at the same time in a 22-page adventure, they would take one idea and they would play it out for the 22 pages. And then maybe the next issue as well, if they thought they could get away with it, the same subject. So I felt like it was kind of, and I don't mean to cast shade on, I mean, some of those guys are like really, really good writers, but it felt kind of lazy to me, because instead of coming up with 3 different ideas, for 3 different books, they would use that same idea and then just play it out for those 3 books. And it became like long form storytelling. Yeah. And then Michael Bendis perfected it, in the Ultimates line, because that Spider-Man book, it took a long time for things to, unfold and things like that. And I think that's why it was original, and that's why it felt unique, because it almost felt like real-time storytelling, where things didn't move too quickly. But I think that also played out, to the extent where it became boring and it became kind of predictable as well. So I really think we should get back to like what Chris was saying, like some of those books where you could just pick them up. You could get them at a yard sale, you could get them at the, the newsstand, you could get them at a comic shop, and you could just pick them up and enjoy that single issue. I do think like ongoing plot lines and even long form storytelling can be used, But I think just do combinations of them. You know,
Yeah.
do more one and dones. Do like subplots in those issues. Have them pay off down the line, like Chris Claremont used to do on X-Men. And then some of these stories have like long form storytelling. You know,
that's why I like the CG model a lot, because you get like 48 pages to like 60 pages. So you get each book at least have like 2 to 3 issues. So it's kind of like, remember those type of miniseries that used to come out at Image and Dark Horse for a while. Like here's one story. It'll conclude in 2 to 3 issues. Then we'll go on with another one and so on and so forth. And
I learned from Black and White, because I was originally going to do it as the 3 issues. So I was gonna release 3 books at the 22 or 24 pages each, and do 3 different campaigns. But my wise and smart wife business partner said you should do it as a 48 page, because it's more significant and you get more bang for the buck, with these crowd funds. And then, so that's what we did. We combined issue 1 and issue 2, pretty much just rewrote the whole thing, but it's loosely based on the original issue 1 and 2. But then we were going to launch the last one. So it's going to be 2 issues. It's going to be volume 1, volume 2. But now that hindsight's always 20/20. The more you do, the more you realize like this is working, this didn't work. So what I'm going to do more with Comicsgate and these crowd funds is I'm going to do one and dones. It doesn't mean that I can't revisit the characters or the worlds, but I'm going to do more one and dones, because these campaigns and these books take a long time to do. Mm-hmm. So then you could get them, and then it's an event. You know what I mean? Like you can buy them, it's an event, and then you can sit and it's a self-contained story.
It's the same premise as the European model. Like Ethan talked about it on one of his streams, and it's one of the points that I used to bring out. It's the fact that you have one book out a year or 2, and the idea is not just because it takes time, because it allows the people to create other things, but you have to give time to people to discover that said book before you throw out a second one.
Yeah,
especially when it's a new IP, right? So you set it out, and you give yourself at least a year for them to discover that thing. And, share it with the people they like and go, hey, read that book. Hey, read that book. That's how you start these things. And then after that, you come up with a second issue, and it becomes an event then to everybody. It's like the same principle as a movie.
Yeah.
Red carpet. Let's go.
Yeah, you gotta let word of mouth kind of spread out a little.
And the proof's in the pudding, because this Black and White Volume 1 Second Chance, like I said, when we launched it 4 days ago, I was thinking this, what we set up for the campaign was going to go the whole 30 days. But, we barely got through 4 days, before we sold out of a lot of the stuff. So you're right. And Ethan's right, where these things do build, even though I had, I was talking about it, I fulfilled the campaign and, all the other stuff, but there still is a demand that keeps growing, in that time, even when you don't think it is, what I mean? Like, you have no idea.
One known factor in anything that's collectability, right? Nothing has value if there's no demand for that said object.
Right.
So technically you're creating your demand by doing so. You're putting one IP out. You let it like grow on people. You let it become like a passive income at the same time while you create other things. So it takes a life of itself. It becomes like a solid IP, and I think that's the best way of doing it. Because otherwise, you end up like like Image, Marvel. Hey, let's try something, but there's 25 issues. Nobody has time to get used, or hey, that came out 5 years ago. I never heard of it.
Yeah, and also I think we're in a phase of like, when I say disposable comics, I mean comics when I was a kid were disposable. They were never like meant to be high end or collectible. They were on newsprint. You rolled them up, you put them in your back pocket, that type of thing. You shared and traded with your friends. They weren't like a commodity, they weren't this precious commodity. And so I think what like Marvel and DC did, even though they're better production values and things like that, is they started cheapening their brand by making it not seem like it was like they were getting behind it, like they were they would like rebrand and reboot, like an entire line of comic books every couple years. So then the readers they would never go, oh, this is substantial. This is going to be the new way of doing things for the next 10 or 20 years. If at best you get the new 52 for 2.5 years or 3 years, and then they reboot it again. And the cool thing about like what you're saying and what we're doing here at Comicsgate is like, we're behind these things. Like these things, we're not going anywhere. These things are substantial. We're getting behind these things. And like you said, you keep them going, you keep them in front of people, and that's part of the branding. But they feel substantial. They feel tangible, like they're not going to go away.
Like a lot of people say, they're passion projects. So it's like we invest a lot in there, right? So it's like none of those projects that we're working on, we don't believe in.
Yeah, or because you don't put this kind of time and energy in. So these things are way more. I don't have the right word, but tangible. They're more substantial, and that they're not fly by night. Like I'm not going to reboot Black and White tomorrow.
And that we're not going to cookie cut it, and we're not going to press on time to have to do all those pages in one day and. Right. Press on time. We actually take our time to rework that panel to the way that we like it. That will be more dynamic and work with the thing. Like I'm sure you redrawn panels multiple times just to have the right pacing in one page.
Yeah, I have. I was going through some stuff in my drawer. Maybe if there's any Black and White fans or people that have the book already. This is kind of the original layout. Oh, it's all blown out. Hold on, I'm gonna get rid of some of this lighting over here, and then you'll be able to see it better.
See that sweet 89 Batman mask in the back? It's so sweet.
Nice.
So yeah, here's some of the layouts. So these are the original layouts. This is when they get their suits, the black and white suits for the first time, the new ones. And so then this is kind of a revised version of the page. So these are the actual layouts. So these are all like on, pencil and then marker.
That's awesome.
So I'm trying to figure out what to do with these things.
You could create special tiers where people could get them.
And then of course, we could. And so you guys, also the cool thing about the Black and White Second Chance is these books are done. So as soon as the Indiegogo closes down, we're going to go into fulfillment, and all the stretch goal items. So the trading card, the patches, I should say, and the button collection, and then there's more stuff.
They're all available in that Riot bot thing, I think. And if you an add-on, right?
Yeah, and when you're checking out, you can add them on. And this is the original Stick It to the Bots sticker, but Ethan Van Sciver inspired me with the Cyberfrog one. So the new sticker is going to be, what is that, about 5 inches round, something like that? Yeah, so we're going to offer that.
Are you thinking of expanding, or it's going to close after the 27 days?
I was originally, going to shut it down at the 30. It was pretty much just a very humble, second chance, try to get some of the inventory that we have here into people's hands. Because also volume 2 is we have a tentative date for the end of the month. So not the end of the month, man. Whoa, that was a slip. The end of the summer. So probably late August, early September, we're hoping to get volume 2. So that will be the conclusion to the story. And so we're going to run the campaign in that time. So I pretty much want, the Black and White Second Chance to be fulfilled by the time I go into that. And also I have 2 campaigns running. So I have Chrono Mechanics running at the same time. I just want to let everybody know, like sometimes, when they hear this, they get a little nervous. But Chrono is done. It's done and it's at the printer. So this week we should get the proofs for that book and I'll show them off on my YouTube show on my channel, and after that we're probably a week or so away from getting all the books in, and at that time we'll go into fulfillment. So Black and White and Chrono will go into fulfillment around the same time. So I just want to let you guys know that it's not going to be 6 months from now. It's not going to, it's not going to be like that. It's Black and White. Once we end the campaign, we're going to go into fulfillment because, like I said, we have everything already here. The only things we don't have is we don't have all the stuff with the new artwork. So the Total Bot Annihilation print, the stickers that I just mentioned, and the trading cards, we don't have those made yet. But as soon as we start getting towards the end of the campaign and get an idea of the print run, how many people have backed, then we can start ordering, and working with our vendors and getting things printed up. So then there's no time lost, because with Chrono, everything except for the trading cards is printed up, and it takes maybe a week. So I believe Pamela, my wife, is going to get the trading cards printed up this week for the Chrono campaign. There's like 15 cards in that campaign, so we're going to get those all printed up this week. So the hopes are, once the books come back from the printer, we'll have those cards. We already have a lot of the stretch goal items made. I think I have some of we have this Doug guitar pick. One of the characters in Chrono Mechanics, his name is Doug, or the D. So he's a 70s rock god. So this is his lucky pick. So
it's the pick of destiny.
It is. It's the lucky pick. And I'll tell you, I said it on my stream before, those guys ripped me off, man. So I had the lucky pick way before that. And the abbreviated story goes, I had a animation deal with Kids WB, and we were looking into the intro. So I had an idea, and this is the idea before it got effed out, you guys. The Holding Out for a Hero song. I was a big Tenacious D fan, so I wanted Jack Black and Tenacious D to do the song. So my agent approached their agent, so we sent the books along and everything. And so there was back and forth. Nothing ever happened, but I do know those guys had the material. You know what I mean? So I could prove, that they had it prior to the Pick of Destiny movie and all of that other stuff. So after the movie came out, I did approach my agent, my lawyer, and I said, what should we do? And he said, that movie didn't do very well. We could sue, but we're not going to really get anything. So it's not really worth our time. So I was like, okay.
It was a flop.
Yeah, and it's funny because do you guys remember like the way they were selling? Because they had the soundtrack that went with the movie, and that's the best thing that came out of it. All that Dave Grohl stuff.
Yeah.
On that. Oh my gosh. Oh, just a little side note. In the movie when David Grohl was the devil, that makeup. My old roommate Mike Smithson did that. He's a Hollywood special effects guy. He actually did that makeup. Yeah, I was like, oh man, that's cool.
I love that scene.
Yeah, it's so funny. I want to get into the lyrics, but it's pretty gross stuff.
Yeah, I know. I'm refraining from it too.
Yeah. Garlic mayonnaise.
Yes.
we had a question in the chat there a while back. Aileen Beck asked, how long do you work on such a cover? I'm assuming for the black and white cover.
These days, it's kind of hard to pin, because I'm doing so many things, different things at the same time. So I have an hour here, hour there. But usually, like when I was working for Marvel and DC, and probably a day, a very long day, probably 12 hours or so.
Yeah, so that's what we mean with days. Compared to people, when an artist says, I'm working a day on it, it's between 10 to 12 hours.
Yeah, sometimes it could be longer.
Yeah.
It depends on what the deadline is, because sometimes you have to kill yourself to make the deadline. So you put as many hours in as it takes to get the job done.
Yep.
So it can take longer, and it depends on the cover too. The Total Bot Annihilation took a long time because there's quite a bit of moving parts on that image.
Oh, there's some pieces that can take 2 to 3 days sometimes.
Yeah. This one took a lot longer.
It looks like many days of work with all those details.
Mhm.
Well, I think it did take many days, but also it was because I spend a couple hours here, a couple hours there. Just because you have to do that, otherwise, if you went in a linear fashion, nothing would really move forward. It would just kind of stagnate, and then you would get one thing done, and then that would go into production, and then you would go on, so on and so on. And it would take forever to do something that way. So, and I'm learning, because that's usually the way I did it in the past. Because when you work for Marvel and DC, you pretty much have the one thing in front of you. So you put the blinders on, you sit down, and you just kind of barrel through it. With crowdfunding and Comicsgate and all this other stuff, it's like you get an hour here, an hour there, to
You're
work
working on multiple projects at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, multiple projects, doing promo stuff like what we're doing here. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh no, you're fine. Believe me, you can talk all day. Edwin the Ace here says 90s X-Men was life-changing and the reason why I fell in love with comics. Thanks, Art Thibert, for being a part of that.
Yeah, Ace is another one. Huge fan of yours, Art.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I see him in all the chats and everything. So I do appreciate, I appreciate all the support. I mean, Comicsgate and this fan base is the best.
Yes.
That's another thing. I know I'm bringing up like my past a lot, but when you work for Marvel and DC, you don't have to wear all the hats, so that's kind of good. But you also don't get the interaction, because we're not taking it right to the fans and the readers and the people that love the projects and the books. So what I do like about this new way of doing business is I can hang out with you guys, I can hang out with your chat, and we can talk directly back and forth about comics and these things. And I never have before.
And you don't have to wait for it to be at cons. It's anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, we can do it. I like, as soon as we're done here, I can start up another stream and I can hang out with whoever, is willing to, be bored with my, channel.
Oh gosh, though, as a kid,
I love your channel.
God.
Oh, thank you.
If you told young me that I would be able to get with a group of people who also loved comics, that alone would have been like, no way. but then on top of it, to tell me that I would be able to talk to someone like you, Art, like in a direct conversation like this, that would have blown my mind. Like, comic book creators and for me was like rock stars. They were like up there.
And you should have seen his face when I told him, dude, we're gonna get Art. His face went, what?
Well, yeah. I mean, now I'll admit, as a kid, I didn't pay a lot of attention to names because like I said, I just got random stuff, so it was hard for me to keep up unless I got over and over. But yours was one that stuck in my head because I my dad, we always used to go to sports stuff, like football, and so we would always go to these sports memorabilia stores, and they tolerated my comic book love because it taught me how to read. And so when I was down there as a youngin, there was a stack of comics and they were signed, and I was like, and I remember pressing up against the thing, going, being like, oh, books. And so he took pity on young me and bought them for me, and so
cool.
in one of them was Cable #1.
Yes,
it has the autograph and the numbers, and then the certificate of authenticity even on it, and that is how I can very well remember Art.
Chris, I have a story, like, because that book did really, really well for Marvel, and I got invited to go on Home Shopping Network. Remember the Home Shopping Network?
Oh, wow.
And so I went on there to sell those books with the certificates and everything, and I did the show with Mr. T. And because he had, I think it was, the comic was Mr. T and the T-Force, and Neil Adams drew it or whatever. So he was selling Mr. T and the T-Force, and I was selling Cable. So I'm drawing like, giant images of cable. So the camera would come back around and I would talk a little bit and they'd show the drawing. And then it would cut over to Mr. T and he's like, pity the poor fool and whatever, And so it was surreal, man. It was like, I'm doing a show with Mr. T. This is crazy. And so the best part is we went out to eat afterwards. And so we got on, it was all first class, like limos. And so we went to the restaurant and Mr. T, believe it or not, sitting right across the table. Like, I mean, for 2 hours, I'm eating with Mr. T, right across the table from me. And my wife's awesome. She loves comics. She loves this whole world and she loves the fan base. And so she came along with me because I think we were going to go to the Disney parks or something because it was in Florida. So we're going to go there after and have a small vacation. And so everybody's trying to connect with Mr. T. Like, I mean, there was a bunch of people from Home Shopping and stuff hanging out as well. And they're all talking about Mr. T this, Mr. T that, this movie. You used to work as a bouncer. They're talking about all this tough guy stuff, right? And he's just like, he's being polite, but he's just kind of, you can tell he's really not into it. He's been asked these questions a million times, right? So like my wife and Mr. T are just talking. They're just talking like two people, just normal people. Normal. And man, I'll tell you, that's all he talked to. He talked to my wife the whole evening, and they just talked about their families, and he's sharing stuff like I know stories about Mr. T that most people probably never will, about his family, about his mother. She worked all these jobs. I think it was like his father's shoes. And I can't remember the story behind it. I said I'd never forget, but he had these shoes and they meant something. I forget what the meaning behind them was, but he put them in glass. So then every time he would see it, he would be reminded of like, what his dad did or what, the idea behind the shoes, just to always keep him humble and to keep him, hungry and keep him working. And he was so grateful, like that his mom put all this time and energy in, working all these jobs, keeping them, off the streets and try to keep them focused into, a positive direction and just all this stuff. And I'm like, holy crap.
It's one thing I've noticed by meeting a few of those, movie stars and stuff like that. They're so used of getting like people being starstruck, like, oh, I love you in that movie. I love you. And you just come to them and just walk by and just say, oh, hi. And just continue. They're like, I did it to Keanu Reeves and another. And they just looked at you like, hi. Then they start talking to you, like engaging. I'm like, how's it going?
What I always do, and I just do this, and then I don't expect anything more, is I go up and I just thank them. I got to meet David Grohl, and we were at one of the Disney hotels or whatever, and he was there with, I don't know if it was his nanny or his wife, but he had a little girl in a stroller. And so, I did the little stalker thing. I was like, because David Grohl I know a lot of guys that look like David Grohl, right? I mean, he's pretty much a big nose, long hair. And so, but I know those feather tattoos, the ones that are on his forearm. Yeah. And so then he had his sleeves kind of cuffed up a little bit. And I was like, oh shit, there's some feather tattoos. So my daughter's a fan too. So we went over there. And the cool thing is we had the key card for the hotel. And we had just got it because we were checking in. And I walked over there and I had a pin and I said, I'm a really big fan. I just want to thank you for your body of work with Nirvana and the Foo Fighters. I mean, I love the music. It's inspirational. I listen to it all the time. Thank you. And I'm a drummer and I love your drum playing. And so I said, could you sign this? So he signed it and that's all. That was it. That was the transaction. And I didn't go, can I get a photo? Because I didn't want to push my luck. I had the signature, and I just didn't want to make a big to-do. And also, I read the room because he looked like he kind of just wanted to get out of there because he was checking out. And he didn't want to see. You know what I mean? He didn't want more people because I think he just kind of wanted to get out of there. So I tried to keep it as quick as possible. You know what I mean? Because I read the room. I realized that he didn't really want this interaction right now. So I think if you read them well, and if you just thank them for the work and then just kind of walk away, I think it gets weird when you have the lingerers. You know, and you've seen these conventions and stuff.
Yeah,
where they just kind of stand next to him for a long
that's what I
time.
mean. You know, I like to say it's like, remember, they're real people. So, you know, try approaching them like real people. So imagine, you know, after your day's work, you're tired. You can't be grumpy.
Yeah. And
Right.
really, the only interaction that you have, or the only connection you have, is the work. So if you thank them for the body of work and stuff like that, and if they want to talk more, then that's icing on the cake, right? But as far as like initially meeting them, that's what I always do. You know, I try to just kind of thank you. You know, I love your work, you know, kind of thing. And could you sign this if I have something, you know, or just shake their hand and, you know, walk away. I met Gene Simmons. It was awesome. You know, I was like, hey, Gene, can I get a picture with you? And then he's like, yes, but can you wait? Because he's very like giant. And he's did you guys ever watch that movie Phantasm?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
There's this character, and he's this old guy. He looks like Richard Nixon, and he's always like, he moves kind of slow motion. He's really tall, and he goes, boy. He's like the villain in the video, like, boy, and he walks towards the boy, and he's just kind of very deliberate and very like. And so I was like getting this vibe from Gene Simmons, and he moves very like kind of slow but very deliberate. You know what I mean? Like he almost just like. He just walks very deliberately, but very slow. Like he's never in a hurry to get anywhere. And so then he walks over, and I realize that he's at the valet and he's getting his car. So then he's over there. He's getting, you know, the ticket and all that stuff. And then he just goes like this over, because I didn't follow him over there because that would have been weird. And then he just kind of does this with the two fingers, and he goes, "I'm ready for you now." That's what he said. He goes, "I'm ready for you now." And I was like, "Oh shit!"
One of the funniest one that I remember is when they opened Planet Hollywood here in Montreal. We had all the owners here coming and, you know, opening the thing, and I met Bruce Willis, and
cool.
you could see that he really, really, really was not in a good mood. Like he was not, you know. And I came in, and I'm the only one that ever brought up Bruno. I loved you in Bruno. Did you bring your harmonica? He looked at me, and his face just changed, like, you know, the glitter in his eyes with the smile, and he pulled out his harmonica. He goes, "Always."
Oh, that's cool.
And he played in the middle of Montreal on the big show. I was like,
"That's killer." Yeah. Well, those were the days, man. I saw this whole documentary on Planet Hollywood, and in like the first, I think, 3 years, those guys made a killing because they were all part owners, right? So there was like Bruce Willis, Demi Moore, Sly Stallone, and Arnold, and there was probably some others as well. But man, those things were on fire for about 3 years.
Yeah, it was the place to be. It was huge as hell. And then after that, it just died out.
And actually, the Batman cowl behind me was a guy, his name's James Latta, and he was one of the main suppliers for Planet Hollywood. So all the props and the different memorabilia, he was responsible for obtaining and getting them into those restaurants.
So Chris, little buddy,
Huh?
we're hitting that 1 hour.
Well, I tried to do the chat first.
I know. I'm just giving you.
Oh, sleep. Look at his eyes, man.
I can keep going.
Watch the face. Watch the face. Look at that. Oh, there it is. The disgusting, bitter. Woo-wee.
Oh, no.
I have this that I'm going to bust open later on the pontificators.
Woodford
Reserve.
Yeah, so it's all numbered and signed. Yeah, so I just got this for my Father's Day, right? Straight from Kentucky.
Oh,
so
happy Father's Day, Art.
Oh, thank you. So I'm going to bust that open, and so you're going to see that face, the alcohol shot face.
I've only drank any kind of alcohol a couple times. That's it. So I imagine my faces would be quite it would be quite strong on me.
Yeah.
I'm not a big drinker, but when I drink, it's rum or dark rum or bourbon and Coke.
Yeah, this is a whiskey bourbon.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Soul says some books are also products of their time and don't translate well into lazy remakes. Unless the new creators put all their heart and soul in it, it's usually better to check the old stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Black and White is heart and soul, so it's a little bit of both. You know, it's got that night. And I must say that Taylor Grosso, who was my writing partner on Black and White, I got to give her a little bit of a nod that I gave her, because we were studio partners, so we would work on the books, like inking and stuff like that. So she was my assistant. And so, you just kind of talk, and then it's like, yeah, I did this book in the 90s. She goes, oh, what's it about? I said, well, here's 3 of the issues, check them out. So she came back after she read them, and she's like, it's really fun. And I was like, I was thinking of bringing it back. So I had all these different like iterations. Like I have, that sketch that I showed you earlier, I have books of different versions of Black and White. Like I think there's at least 2 complete versions of a whole series of the story in as tight as this layout. They're all, look at this.
I know. That one was like, ooh.
They're all this tight. And so she's like, well, why would you redo it? She said, this 90s, there's a lot of charm in this book. And you definitely, it was like, you captured something. There's this energy in the book. She said, you should just do it like this. And so I was like, I reread the series, and then I was like, yeah, you know what? It almost feels unique and fresh because, it's been 25 years. So it feels unique. It feels different. And it has this energy, and it's innate in that story, in those versions of the characters. So I just decided, since she was excited about it, like that I would just do that version of the characters. I wouldn't try to like update them, or, I mean, they are somewhat updated, but not the characters. The world is, but not the characters. And when I was redoing it over the 25 years, those different versions I was talking about, those fundamentally were different. So like Reed Blackett, aka Black, in the original series that my wife and I came up with in '94, he is like Steve Rogers. He's Clark Kent. Like because the whole Black and White idea was, I was sick of the angst gray area heroes. You know what I mean? I wanted a hero that wanted to be there. You know what I mean? Like he wanted to do good. It wasn't like, oh, my parents were killed, or, you know what I mean? Like there was this horrible thing that happened, and that's what led into him being a hero. He chose it. He wanted to do it. And so the idea is, in a world where law and order is often blurred to gray, justice can only be black and white. So that's the tagline. So his form of justice is very kind of direct. It's good, it's evil. You know what I mean? So he just cuts through the bullshit, that gray area. He cuts through it, and then he can separate these two and see things in a more clearer fashion than most people can. And so that was the original idea. And so over the years, I was thinking, comics were changing. They were getting more complex, I guess, with character and their backstories and what motivates them. And so I got all in my head thinking, I got to change this guy, you know what I mean, to reflect the times. So more cynicism, more angst, more of all this complexity that heroes and just life is. Like I'm a musician, so I use this like music before Nirvana and music after Nirvana. So you had music before where it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but it was all like, it was good, clean fun. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't angsty. It wasn't like you're gonna OD. And it wasn't like that. It wasn't like the reality of it. It was like it was fun. And then after Nirvana, things went from external to internal. You know what I mean? Like they were looking inwards, like emotionally, like and spiritually, and all those things. And so comics started doing the same thing. And I was doing that with that Reed Blackett character. And then when Taylor was like, no, this is a cool character, I started seeing it through her eyes. and then realizing that what my wife and I created in '94 was great. You know what I mean? It was the best way to go with it. So especially in these times, you know, because things are so convoluted, you know, you have people like, what is his name? Zack Snyder, you know, creating the DC cinematic universe where I don't even know who those characters are.
Yeah.
Batman's killing people. Superman is like, this stands for hope, but yet it's all doom and gloom. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. So that's kind of what started this new version of Black and White. And then, of course, you know, Marvel with the cinematic universe and the way Chris Evans chose to play Steve Rogers in Captain America is perfect. You know what I mean? Like if you had
Thank you, Art.
Steve Rogers, there you go.
His name is Chris Evans.
Yeah. And so I'm sorry. You got yeah, that's right. I forgot that your last name's Evans. And so so then, you know, you have this template now for something that financially makes sense. You know what I mean? It's not just like it's cool, but you know, Chris Evans, the actor, and the way they wrote that character, they make reference like, oh, he's a little corny or he's behind the times. But when he's in action, when he's doing stuff, you don't question him, right? You don't question his motives. You don't question his authority. You don't question any of those things because he's genuinely a good guy and he's going to do the right thing. So his moral barometer is always in tune. None of those other Avengers were. The reason Tony Stark could never lead the Avengers is because he doesn't have that moral compass. You would question Tony Stark's motives. Mm-hmm. You don't question Steve Rogers. You know what I mean? So I thought, you know, this is a good time to create, you know, to bring this character back. And that's who the character was originally, but just keep that going, you know, and play that in a contemporary, more cynical, you know, society. Because I think that we live in a way more cynical society than we ever have. You know, I'm an older guy. You guys are still young, so you don't know.
No, I'm not that young.
Yeah, but people dissect everything these days. You know, motivations, like what's his motivation? What's he up to? You know, like there's all this cynicism. Like,
what type of soap does he use to wash his own?
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I mean, your concepts of the past were supposed to be heroes, paragons of virtue, and all these righteous stuff. And nowadays they're all, like you said, cynicism, and they have all these complex things. You're bringing them down to a normal man's level, and these are supposed to be ideals that inspire, you know, kids and you know, and everything. It's
I hate this, Chris. I hate when people go, it's not realistic. It's like, well, no shit.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be.
It's fiction.
I'm not doing realism here. These are idealized versions of heroes. These are idealized versions of characters. This is what we maybe want to aspire to, or that we hope that does exist. You know what I mean? When you read a Clark Kent story or Superman story, I was never like, that's not real. I was always like, wouldn't that be cool if there was a guy like that? You know what I mean? Like you would like to think that maybe somebody on your block has the virtue of Clark Kent and Jonathan and Martha. You know what I mean? That they're that good, that they're that, you know, straight of like their morality, their moral barometer is set always to the right thing. And I don't know, you know, maybe it's corny, but it also is kind of like, I can't think of the word. It makes you feel secure. It makes you feel good. You know what I mean? That there's somebody that's out there that's like that. And then that then becomes the hope, and that becomes the inspiration. And then possibly you go, I want to be like that.
It inspires you to be the best you can be as a person.
So I can be that to somebody else, and so on and so on. So you can inspire, like, or you can have a negative image, and then people like the Kardashians. I know that's a dated reference, but you know, they act out and they're a bunch of like amorals, you know, that most likely will never do the right thing, you know. And then there are people like, oh, that's cool. Those people are awesome, and they emulate them. But you know, why couldn't you do it the opposite?
Yeah, I'm very happy about hearing about the fact that you kept the characters as is, because I remember what I really liked from the original series, right? I remember when you first started the advertisement, right? It was black and white with the yin yang, right?
Yeah.
And we all know what the yin yang is. It's about finding balance between two total opposite that have the same, it's to get along and get things done technically. And that's what I like about it, because they're two different archetype of two heroes. They're totally freaking different. They're really black and white. But they all have the same goal, which is to be a hero and save the world.
Yeah.
And that gives a good dynamic between them, because what he sees right may not be exactly what she sees right.
Yeah.
So,
and vice versa. Like one of the things that because I knew that Reed Blackett, even in the 90s, because like I said, it was against the angsty gray area, hero template. But she is that template, she is that gray area. Like, you can't always guarantee that she's going to do the right thing. But I do want to write stories where that sometimes she is correct. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's not good to get too inside your head. Sometimes action and direct action is the best way. Sometimes what you see is exactly what you get. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to go kick their ass.
Like he's the straight arrow. And she's the one that might bend the rule to get the job done.
Right. Yeah, and then we'll figure out like if she's right or wrong. But then that also becomes the debate of right and wrong. So then there can be some. I don't want to make it overly heady, but there can be some of those discussions. Like what is the right thing? What is moral in this situation? That type of thing. What is this?
He has the original series and he has the new volume 1, and the upgrade is definitely worth it. Plus, it comes with a lot of swag.
Oh yeah. Go buy and back this book, you guys. And the good thing about it is it's going to ship, as soon as we shut the campaign down. Now, shit, we went up.
Yeah, you went up. You're at 15,486.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much, man. It would be awesome to get 16K by the end of the day. I don't know if we can do it, but I think if your crowd can rally.
That's one of the things that we've all been trying to double down and promote, because with all the great
imposter. I'm sorry, I'm reading it. He's an imposter, only Chris Evans.
Yeah, you change his name legally to be an actor, while Chris Evans is the actual Chris Evans. Right. And if he's the actual body that was you.
The original
for the skinny part. Yeah.
I'm the original skinny Steve Rogers.
I could do this all day. Yeah. As you're drinking your coffee, I could podcast all day.
And you see the head go down and the eyes can shut down a bit.
And then he comes up in a minute or two. He's like, "Yeah, I'm ready to do it again."
Then he takes a sip of that coffee. Then he remembers, that's why I stopped drinking it.
Well, I appreciate the real Chris Evans torturing himself on this live stream to help promote Black and White. So I do appreciate that.
I got a question. Are the original Black and White? How many issues was that? Because I went down to Bubba Fest I guess that was about a year ago, and they had, I think it was issues 2 and 3, and I picked those up. I know obviously I'm missing one. I don't know how many other issues there were.
There was the original miniseries in '94, so issue 1, 2, and 3, and then we took almost a year off to develop the ongoing series. Because that's kind of how you did it back then. You tested the water with the miniseries, and then if it did well, which oh my gosh, it did so well.
Yeah.
That's why there's all these copies all over the place. And so we launched the ongoing a year later, and I think this was probably 95, like the tail end of 95. But the market started going down throughout that year. So we put the first issue of the ongoing out. I still have 2 other issues that no one's ever seen. And
I never even saw that one.
Yeah, so there's one issue of the ongoing that's out there. So the miniseries really focuses on like Whitney's origin, or like AKA White's origin. So how it's how they form the team, and then how she kind of comes into the fold. And then the ongoing kind of focuses on Reed. Blackett, aka Black's backstory. So that's kind of what we were thinking that we would do, and then we would be setting up the ongoing because the thing is, I always thought, like, okay, you have Batman, you have Peter Parker, Spider-Man, you have certain characters, and they seem vengeance oriented, right? Like, so Peter Parker's got to bring the guy that killed Uncle Ben to justice, right? So you think, okay, well, that's a one-off, right? You could motivate yourself to bring this guy to justice, but then how do you motivate yourself ongoing? You know what I mean? To put that mask on, to put the costume on, to go out and fight crime on a nightly basis. And so that's what the Black and White ongoing was. Because I thought, like, well, the miniseries, there was a reason. It was a visceral, immediate reason for them to do this. But how do you inspire them to do it on a daily basis? You know, how do you
over and over again?
That's one of the ideas that we were playing up on in the ongoing. So what I would like to do, and I talked to my wife about this, is we are going to resurrect the idea of that ongoing, but we're going to try to condense it in a one shot and kind of bring all those elements into like one storyline, and a lot of those ideas into that one shot. I think it's practically impossible, but we're going to try to do that because I think it's a great story, and my wife loves it. And I think when we were writing together on that, we figured out a lot of things. We took a lot of missteps and things like that. But by the time we were writing on that series, we were nailing it.
You know what it reminded me of? Like, I just thought about it. Like, I remember when I was watching Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It reminded me of Black and White.
Oh, it pissed me off when that came out.
Right? It's the same type of chemistry, It's the
yeah. I was like, how dare you? But the new series is different than the original, because the original series was like contemporary time. It was in a real 1994 setting. But the new series is in a far-flung future. Not a far-flung, but maybe 30 years from now, 40 years from now.
Not so distant. Yeah.
That's the word. Yeah, not so distant. So robots are a mainstay in society. So they exist and they live alongside human beings. And so what Reed is he is MI6 like James Bond, but he's MI10. So MI10 is the anti-robotics task force. So what they are is that they're like a police force that any kind of illegal illegal robots or like sentient robots are against the law in this world. So they basically, this task force psychologically they can analyze these robots. They can figure out like manufacturing, how they fight, all these things. So Reed basically he's trained in like all the like how to pick up the signs of what this robot is, how it functions, the form, and then also how to take it down, how to fight it and bring it down. And so he's basically a robot fight, but he also understands the psychology of robots. And so that's like his backstory. So he's kind of a future spy. He's like James Bond mixed with Magnus Robot Fighter. So he's a robot fighter, but he's James Bond at the same time. So he doesn't just encounter robots and fight robots, because there's humans that are manufacturing these. They're trafficking these. There's all kinds of illegal activity to build these sentients and all this other stuff. There's assassin drones. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that exists in this world. So so that's the twist with this new version, is he is James Bond, but he has this other aspect to him. So I think it's more visually interesting. So Reed and Whitney can battle these giant mechs. They can battle robots. They can take on hordes of robots and stuff like that. And the reason I like it too is because I always liked Wolverine in the Danger Room, the old Danger Room when they had robots, because he could actually just unleash those claws. You know what I mean?
He's going wild, tearing through them.
Yeah. And so I always liked that as a kid. So, you know, like Black and White, they can just dismantle these robots. That's why, you know, in the campaign, it's like total bot annihilation. You know, in the image, they're just chopping heads off and blasting through torsos, you know, and just destroying these robots. And so that's kind of the idea there. And then the morality of it that we already, you know, we're talking about with Black is that, you know, he's this James Bond type character, but because of his morality, if you could imagine, you know, a Steve Rogers, you know, and they even played upon that with S.H.I.E.L.D. Like S.H.I.E.L.D. was like gray area. Like they were, the ends justified the means. You remember, like he had those like in, what was it? It was Winter Soldier. You know, those guys were actually close to coming to blows. Like if the story didn't play out that way, eventually Steve Rogers would have probably had to dismantle S.H.I.E.L.D. on his own, because he realized that they were doing some questionable things in the form of justice. And his idea is ends don't justify the means. You know, you can't do bad to justify good. Yeah. And so, you know, the story played out the way it did, and then you got to see that. So I had this before that movie came out, but like Reed Blackett is that guy. So he's a disillusioned spy. So he was a soldier first and foremost, and then he got recruited into the MI, you know, like MI6, and so he worked his way up the ranks and then became MI10. And so, you know, the idea is that he was altruistic. He thought he was doing good for God and country, but he soon realized that, you know, true spies do very questionable things. Mm-hmm. And to be a good spy, you don't question your authority. You know what I mean?
That's where I was saying before that I really like that about that character. It's like, you know, you realize that, oh, I did some really shady thing. Like the entire book's about good or bad, black or white. You know, it's
yeah. So the neat thing about the character is that, you know, he lost the taste for it. Super serum coffee. That's awesome. You have a great chat here, man. That was a great show.
Oh yeah, Soul is just as important as me or Sim in this.
Yeah, he's as much a part of the show.
Yeah.
The super serum, the coffee serum is a big. And by the way, Chris, I don't think you should change the screen. I think that is part of your online persona.
Yeah, I'm starting to think so too.
I like it. You know, slip into the Matrix and drink some super serum coffee.
You know, it's funny because, you know, sometimes it goes full screen, but most of the time it's only on you. Like if you were a digital, like, you know, persona in there.
Oh.
I thought you were doing it on purpose, because I was like, oh, man.
He was about to ask you, how the hell do you do that?
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with it. Like a couple shows there, it wasn't doing it at all, and I was like, oh, it's fixed. And then like, I think it started on the last stream here with Mike just there a couple hours ago, and it just started again. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah, I wouldn't be ashamed of it. I would embrace it.
Did it start when you mentioned Turtle Power?
Turtle Power, maybe. Oh, I'm invoking the spirit of the turtles.
But anyways, long story short, it's just that, you know, he became disillusioned and he left the organization, you know. And then so when he meets Whitney, he's kind of trying to be a normal citizen. So he's trying to become a businessman, and he runs an import-export business. And so that's when he meets Whitney Sung, who's heiress to a brewery. So he's going to basically import-export, you know, their product to the world.
That is a big change from the original, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. That was an addition as well, because the motivation was not quite as clear in the original story. And so then what happens is, you know, he's military trained, he's an ex-spy, but he doesn't like the morality of either one of those things. And so what he does is he thinks like, well, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to help her, it has to be in my own way. So he is kind of a vigilante, but that's where the black and white justice comes into it. So he does have a code of, you know, of ethics. he has a way of doing things. There's things that he won't do. There's lines that he won't cross, things like that. So then he basically becomes a vigilante to help her. And then you realize quickly that she needs help, but she doesn't need the help that he thought, because she's all trained too. Like, she's a pretty badass fighter.
She's no diesel.
Yeah. So he basically makes her indestructible with the suit, gives her a killer weapon, and actually full-heartedly thinks that she's going to, do the black and white justice thing. But he learns pretty early on she just wants straight vengeance. So she just wants, her enemies dead. So, and that's where you get into the problems. And that's pretty much where issue 1 or volume 1 ends.
So definitely go pick it up.
Yes. Pick it up. Pick up 2. They're small.
I picked I picked one up. Do you have an add-on? So we buy one and we can have an extra copy. Or we have to buy it twice.
You would have to get it twice, but that is actually a pretty good idea. So we do have an add-on at checkout, and that's for the stretch goal goodies. So you could either back the Killer Bot tier, which has those already included, or when whatever tier you pick out, you can add on the stretch goals. And then what we're going to do as well, I was working on this on this is what I talk about, like the hit and miss stuff. So while I was drinking and on the Pontificator show, I drew up just a quick little doodle. So this is what the drawing is going to look like. The sketch that I have the tier for. So it's a drawing plus book. And what I'm going to do is, once I get the visual for this, I'm gonna make this an add-on as well. So this is like the quick doodle there. And so, like I said, I was drawing this while I was on a live stream. So then this is the better version of Whitney Sung, aka White.
I really like where your style got.
Oh, thanks. So then, like, he'll be up on the top, still the same. And then there's going to be the yin yang, or not the yin yang, but the gun sight, like design around them, like this. So that's going to be the drawing. So I think we have 8 backers on the drawing so far. So I know we'll get more once they see the artwork. So I appreciate people backing the art, like the art tier or the drawing tier without seeing what they're going to get. But usually I do pretty good quality, head images and stuff.
Maybe the only thing I would recommend, but that's a personal thing, a tier with 2 copies, or an add-on that we could add an extra book to the order, because I would gladly buy 2 copies.
Yeah, a lot of people like to have that collector copy and then the reading copy. Yeah.
You know what? I'll do that. I will do that. So maybe I'll do them all as add-ons. I can't do the Greg Capullo because it's very limited. But I can do the black and white Vampirilla book, and I can do the standard edition.
Because I'll definitely want 2 copies. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they can, when they're checking out, they can add a copy onto that.
And we save a bit on the shipping instead of ordering 2 copies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the shipping might actually be negligible, so I might not add any shipping onto that.
Even better, like if you do it, I'm gonna refund and rebuy and buy a second copy. Because I don't think we can just go to add an add-on, I think.
Right. So I have it maneuvered. So if you go to the site without buying or actually backing a tier, you can still get to that add-on section or at the
No, you don't. The add-on is usually you connect it to the thing to the book tier, and that's the only place it'll be. Like, you can create your own add-on tier that you can make visible, but when you do the actual add-on, you link it to to the tier that you want it to be available with.
Okay. So then you don't see it, but when you're checking out, you see it then.
Exactly. Then it appears there. Hey, want an extra book? No shipping. No extra shipping.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't want to make it overly complicated because I wanted to keep the tiers, like where you could maneuver through them relatively quick.
Then just create another tier where it's 2 books. That's it.
Yeah. But I think I might do the add-on because also, we are selling out on quite a bit of the tiers. So some of those tiers are gone now. So we could bring new ones in to take their place. So that's a good idea. Thank you so much.
Oh, we got another question. He says, you only draw traditional, or do you also draw digital?
What I do is I draw my thumbnail like this. This, believe it or not, was a smaller thumbnail. And then what I did is I did take this into the computer digitally, and I kind of drew over it. So this is kind of a digital line. It looks like pencil, but it is digital. And so then what I do is with the layouts, I'll like augment them in Photoshop because I can adjust them, and I can flop the image, and I can do things and draw over the image on layers that I can't when I do things traditionally. Because when you do things traditionally, you have to completely erase what you just drew. So this way, digitally, I can draw over it. So what I do, it sounds complicated, but it actually is faster, and I think the results are better, is I draw the initial thumbnail, like the rough, and then I'll scan that in, I'll take it into Photoshop, and then I'll basically redraw it in Photoshop. And then I'll save that, and then I'll print it out, either just print it out like you just saw, or I'll print it out in blue line and ink it. So I'll either ink that little layout that I just did, or I'll print it out and then I'll light box it up and tighten it up, and then I'll scan it again, and then I'll print it in blue lines and then ink it.
Do you use regular photocopy paper when you print them? The blue line?
I use Bristol board, so 11 by 17 Bristol board.
Oh,
or are you talking about these
when you print them? Yeah.
This is just paper. This is just like normal, drawing paper or print out paper. Yeah.
Okay, then you use the light box to put it on Bristol.
Yeah, and I have this. So I kind of use it as a lab board too. So.
Oh, that's sweet.
It's got my little. So sometimes, like when I was on the pontificators, I just put it right here, and I can draw and I can talk, and no one.
I want one of those.
Yeah, no one sees it. And then when I do the more drawing streams, I use the drawing board that's over here. So I don't usually show it off, but there's the setup.
Oh, that's a nice table.
So it's all glass, so I have to put that kind of black mat on it because the camera's it's above it, so the camera will reflect the glass. And also what I found out, like when I was doing the early streams, is that you could see my feet through the table. Everybody go like, nice legs, and they like echo me in the chat. I was like, holy shit, they could see my legs.
I guess the feet people were happy, I guess.
Yeah. I got hobbit feet, so they're like hairy little feet. So yeah, they got a treat. And then people would criticize my socks. Like, you'd be surprised that like people can just like burn you on the simplest things. Like, you wear like those type of socks? Like, I didn't know those were bad socks. Like, there's sock police out there.
Yeah.
There was one
wearing white socks. I'm like, well, I'm not supposed to wear white socks.
That's what it was. It was like white socks, and I was like, when did that change? Like, I thought color socks were kind of stupid,
Yeah, I thought that was the color thing with the dye that was bad for your skin. I thought that's why every sport, like athletes, wear white socks. That's why we used to wear them when we used to do sports.
Yeah.
If you get a cut or you get, anything.
Like,
now it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's all good. I God, what was it? I think we were going to like auction off the socks or something. Yeah, I was like, smell-o-vision. You're gonna get the full.
There you go, unwashed socks for sale.
Yeah,
$100 on the campaign. Same socks as seen on screen.
I'm surprised. Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't try to make you draw with your feet like the others did.
I'll tell you right now, I don't have that skill. I do not. I could not believe like what Malin was doing, and I think Mike Miller was.
Yeah, drawing with their feet.
Yeah,
but you have to admit, you are curious. Going, could I?
Yeah, I have that ability.
I don't really get like that. I'm very practical. It's like, no, I just want to get the work done. I never feel like I have that kind of downtime that I could do, start drawing with my feet. Do you remember, I'm an older guy, but Dave Letterman used to have stupid human tricks.
Yeah.
So it'd be like, those type of things like, oh, I taught myself to draw with my feet. Like, you got a lot of time on your hands, like,
yeah, but me, I see it as in like it's one of the things they used to push in art class before, like practice with your left hand. Try and draw holding the pencil a different way. It's breaking the comfort zone, testing different grounds. Like we used to draw with two hands. Like I did that for a while just for the hell of it. Two pen and just like go at it. Yeah.
Dude, I've done that, but not the monkey feet. Like I've never like tried to grab a pencil with my foot. What the hell is that? Like, it's like the Beast from the X-Men. You get these like, feet that work like hands.
But sold.
I don't know. I mean, you know what? I probably should try it just because I might be really, really good at it. And there's that one chance, right? The one chance out of a million that you just excel with your feet. Like you always thought, no, my right hand, that's where it's all at. And then you put the pencil in your foot, and you grab the pencil with your foot, and then you're like, oh my gosh, Michelangelo had nothing on.
Then instead of being my left foot, now it's my right foot, and it turns into a positive.
Hey, you never know. It could work out, and then you could turn it into like a gimmick thing, and people will start buying up your foot drawings.
Nah, I want his books instead.
Yeah. I do know one thing though. I am fairly ambidextrous. My dad was, and I play the drums, so I can almost duplicate all the movements left and right, and I can do it left foot and right foot. So I don't know. I might be able to do something like that. Yeah.
You know what? You did it with one foot. Here's 2 feet drawing.
Yeah. Oh my God. I always thought, like, what if you could, just draw, the same image, or like 2 different images at the same time, you get twice the amount of work done.
Okay, so people, you better be expecting a show like that coming eventually somewhere.
No, I'm not that experimental. Yeah, I kind of just want to get the work done.
No, but meaning there's obviously somebody that's gonna try this.
You guys can try it. Like,
No, I'm not. I'm drawing with my hands.
I feel like
I'm a bit like you on that one, Art.
Yeah, I've seen videos of somebody who had like 2 canvases up, and they had 2, one in each hand, and they were just drawing, and they were doing both at the same time.
Well, Chris, there's people that can draw upside down. Have you seen those knuckleheads?
No, I ain't seen that.
They'll just and you're like, what the hell are they doing? And then they just turn it over, and it's like, oh, it's a portrait of.
Yeah, I've seen. Oh, yeah, I've seen that once. Yeah, then they flipped it, and it was like, whoa, what?
Yeah, it doesn't look like anything, and then they flip it over, and you're like, what the heck?
Yeah, like, how do you do that?
Yeah, it boggles my mind. Yeah, but. I have the one thing I perfected it over my lifetime. I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah, same here.
You guys, I have many years invested in this archaic, old school, hold a pencil, get a piece of paper and draw thing.
Call me old fashioned, but yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not using that newfangled foot technique using these days.
So, hate to be that guy, Chris. But we're getting to the 1 hour and 43 minutes. I brought up the campaign. So people, go back this wonderful book by this wonderful creator.
Yeah, I should be wrapping it up anyway, because I think this coffee is starting to work on my stomach.
I will tell you one thing, Chris. Your eyes are wider open than they were when you started.
Yeah, oh yeah, the coffee's hitting me. I'm feeling awake, but now I'm starting to feel sick to my stomach. I don't know.
Well, if you were drinking all that caffeine and stuff on an empty stomach, that'll do it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe that is the problem.
Yeah, just go eat a piece of bread or something like that and sop up some of that crap you just put in your stomach.
A little peanut butter toast there will do the job.
Oh yeah, that'll do the job. Yeah, and it's got some protein in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but for all those out there, thank you for watching us. We're gonna start doing our wrap up, and we'll start with you, Mr. Sim.
Oh, go sub to Tales from the Adverse and my channel, Simon Sympathie, and the same on Twitter. And on that campaign, if you miss Blood Hunt, some copies will be available on Tales from the Adverse, so don't worry.
All right, and now you, Mr. Art.
All right. Well, I have a YouTube channel. It's my name. Please go like, subscribe. And somebody said that you want to make sure you don't just subscribe. You what is it?
Ring that bell, and especially all notification. Otherwise, you won't. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you sign up for the notifications, because there are a lot of people that aren't getting their notifications, and that doesn't help anybody. So yeah, please go check that out. And I usually live stream at least 3 times a week. I have been doing more, and I do draw on that channel as well. And I have Chrono Mechanics that is in demand right now. We're over 45K. We just unlocked a major stretch goal, which is the embroidered Team 9.2 of Sector 7 patch. So go check that out. Please back one of those books. You're going to get all those stretch goals. And the book is at the printers, and we should be getting that book back soon. So you won't have to wait very long. And then, of course, the newest campaign, which is live, is Black and White, Volume 1, Second Chance. And so this is the same campaign. It pretty much mirrors the original campaign that we did last year, with the exception of a new piece of artwork, which is the Total Bot Annihilation. So you can get that as an oversized poster print, and it comes, all the tiers come with a trading card of the same artwork. And if you back the stretch goal goodies tier, you will get that oversized sticker with the same artwork on it. So yeah, please, everybody, go check it out. And thank you so much to everybody that supported this and has backed it. And thanks, Chris. And is it just Sim? Is that what you go by? And then thank you, Sim, for having me on and being so gracious to let me, sell my wares.
Thanks for coming by. It's an honor having you here and actually getting to talk with you.
Yeah.
No problem, man.
Yeah, that's why I let it run for so long.
And you guys, if you tweet out, connect me to it, and I'll make sure I can retweet it and stuff.
I did a little fan art sketch for to help promote the campaign, if you remember.
Oh, that thing came out really good, man.
Oh, thanks. It's a quick little sketch I made. Like I might do a more finished art. Like I really like the characters.
Yeah, do more, and I'll post it around, and then try to get some attention on some eyes on you, as they say.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
Everybody should go check out Black and White. It is a good book. Because I got it in the first campaign.
So don't forget to like, sub, and share this channel of this host that's a bit losing his way with the caffeine. But we love that guy. Amazing backer, supporter, and he's the Sean Bean of CG. He dies in more books than Cecil. He said it a long time ago that he was going to beat Cecil being the Sean Bean in comics.
I am in quite a few now.
We'll do a Chris Evans robot and have Black and White just destroy him.
Yeah, I am in quite a bit of them now.
Dude, how many did you back so far?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I gave you the list. I don't know.
No, but I mean you're 100 and something. I know you're over 100 campaigns.
Oh, my contributions 181.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I think he's one of the biggest backers.
Yeah.
Chris, I used to see your name all over the live streams. I hardly see you anymore.
Yeah, I used to be all over like Ethan's, and then in yours. I was in everybody's streams, popping in and out. I've had to cut back a little bit on the streams. But yeah,
there's also the fact that we don't get notifications anymore. Like I'll get a notification that art is on, like it'll be an hour after.
Yeah, like
it's really strange.
Yeah, there last night was your stream, Sim. I didn't get a notification at all for it.
Everybody's telling me the same thing.
Yeah, I was on, who was it? Adam's live stream. I went on Adam's, and then I was like, it popped up under my like recommended underneath it was like your stream, and it was live. I was like,
and the worst thing is we were doing just a doodle and chill for with Vinny as the main guest, right? And out of nowhere, just before the end, when we're starting to close down, we got struck. and taken out. I'm like, what the hell did we do? I'm like, I sent an email. I'm like, there's nothing. All the copyrights of the material on that show is copyrighted to the people on that show.
Yeah, I just think we're YouTube peasants, like they're going to give us the scraps,
But there's the fact that one of the biggest messages they keep going on is please be aware that because of the COVID thing, they don't have as many people at work. So right now they're relying on bots. So anybody can come and flag. And instead of just checking it, they'll just take it out.
And don't tell them, because now everybody's going to start flagging us. You gave them the secret formula.
You have to do the robo-nose, right? Okay, so everybody, I think that's the show. Soul Lion just broke our host. Go back, Art Thibert, a legend. So go get it now.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Later, everybody. And broadcast.